Hi everybody, Hazza here. Since the Game Changers Championship is coming up next week, I wanted to make a slightly different video to usual. I'm going to be taking a quick dive to look at all of the teams participating ahead of the first game on November 15th. The first team we're going to be taking a look at is Team Liquid Brazil. Team Liquid is the Brazilian representative at the Game Changers Championship. The former Gamelanders purple roster was picked up by the org in January and have won everything at a domestic level since, placing first in the last two Game Changers series and all of their respective qualifiers. The team consists of their IGL Daiki, Nat1, Naxi, DRN and Busted, a fan favourite among commentators I'm sure. In terms of playstyle from the attacking side, they love to make late executes, always playing most of the map. They also have a heavy focus on utility in their defensive rounds, which will make them hard to break down. In a recent interview, their IGL Daiki stressed the importance of utility in her gameplay as a flex player. Their star fragger is B-Stud, described as a charismatic character by her teammates both inside and outside of the server. She managed to hit 260 ACS across all maps in their regional final. Coming off the back of a LAN victory, this Raze player is sure to light up the event. I have Team Liquid as my dark horses of this tournament. They've won everything possible in their own region and they came back from 2 maps down to reverse sweep the Brazilian final, so their mental game will be rock solid. We'll just have to see how that translates onto the international stage with such a young group of players. Next up, we have Guild X. Guild come into this event brimming with confidence after beating G2 Gozen 3-2 in the grand finals of EMEA Game Changers. They've been a staple top 2 team in the region this year and finally hit the top spot ahead of our first international LAN. They are made up of IGL Claudia, Roxy, Smurfette, Anya and most recent addition Ness. Their playstyle is slow and methodical with strong executes, having defensive halves bolstered significantly by Roxy, who plays traditional sentinel roles such as Cypher and Killjoy, anchoring one end of the map while Smurfette looks for picks elsewhere. My one to watch would be Anya. After leaving G2 last year, she had a point to prove, and since joining Guild she's been an important part of their success, culminating in their most recent victory. She mainly plays an initiator role but flexes onto Raze for their bind composition. An incredibly crisp aimer, she is one of the strongest players in Game Changers. With recent results, Guild X have to be considered one of the favourites to take the tournament. While many would still have G2 ahead of them regionally considering experience and track record, they have been preparing immensely at the Guild headquarters in London ahead of the event and will definitely be one of the main contenders. X10 Sapphire. The APAC representative for Game Changers have taken a long path to reach the championship. Mixed results forced them to take the route through APAC's last chance qualifier, followed by an elite tournament consisting of top teams in the region. They defied these odds by finishing first in both events, securing their spot in Berlin. Their roster is from Thailand, led by IGL Ginny, joining her Muffin, Alyssa, Polly and Babitz. X10 are a team which love to use the Neon pick, being a mainstay of their Haven, Fracture and Pearl compositions. This role is primarily played by Muffin, with Babitz taking up the mantle on Fracture to allow her to move on to a more aggressive chamber playstyle. This sets them up for fast executes and strong retakes from their defensive side, with the Neon finding value being paramount to their success. My one to watch then is Muffin, a player who flexes between chamber and this duelist role depending on the maps, but will bring an aggressive game all the same. We'll have to see what kind of impact she can bring with such a diverse pool of agent choices across the different maps that X10 like to try and play. I expect X10 to cause problems for teams. It's a question of how quickly their opponents can adapt to this explosive playstyle and compositions. With their first map being placed against G2, a team notorious in their cohesive style and mid-game adjustments, it's hard not to see them move to the lower bracket early on, however. The second team from EMEA is G2 Gozen. While we didn't see much from G2 in EMEA during the months leading up to Series 3 of Game Changers, they still delivered the all-important result, claiming yet another top 2 finish and securing their place at the championship. With the departure of longtime veteran Zaz and the addition of 16-year-old flex player Mary to their roster from Team Chatband, there were some hurdles that they had to overcome. G2 will be hoping this climatization period has now finished and they can return to winning ways with Mimi, Petra, Giuliano and Glance rounding out the roster. In my opinion, G2 have the strongest fundamentals in Game Changers. Their core of Mimi, Petra and Giuliano brings thousands of hours of competitive experience to the table. This makes them an extremely efficient team which can punish the small mistakes of their opponents. Rather than strictly sticking to one playstyle, they are very good at adapting to their opponents, making them the chameleon face killer of Valorant. My one to watch has to be Giuliano. Making her first appearance recorded on Liquipedia back in 2010, she has over a decade of knowledge in the competitive scene, making her indispensable to any team she joins. Showing no signs of mechanical deterioration over this time, she takes up the duelist role for G2 and had a combined 283 average combat score last event. I expect her to thrive once again in this offline environment. G2 will be aiming for a return to the top this tournament after their defeat to Guild X back home. Mary brings a lot of promise to the roster, rounded out with such experienced teammates. Will this promise be delivered upon or fall short of the mark? From East Asia, we have Fennel FE. Fennel Female are another team which come into the competition having conquered their own region in dominant style. Their team is made up of Karumi, Len, Kohal, Festival, and the final piece to the roster, currently on loan from Zeta Division for this split, Suzu. Their playstyle is that of hard-hitting executes from their star player Festival, with others supporting and their sentinel Suzu taking up a lurking operator role. Cutting off rotates and causing issues for overextending defenders, this chamber is one to watch out for. Speaking of ones to watch, the main player I've highlighted would be Festival. Keeping the Korean Jet archetype alive, she is the only non-Japanese player on the roster. A capable fragger playing a hard entry role to support the rest of her team. Much of the success that Fennel have in this tournament will rely on her finding big impact. Fennel Female come into the tournament as a complete underdog. With so few events played amongst them, let alone as a full roster, it may be hard to see them progress far. I still expect them to give a good account of their individual skill, however with how early in its development stage the East Asian scene for Game Changers is, this lack of experience will likely see them struggle. Next up, Shopify Rebellion. Shopify Rebellion are currently in the best spot they've ever been, taking home the last few Sakura Cups as well as Super League Arena. Despite strong performances, they continue to be overshadowed by the Goliath that is Cloud9 White. Several second place finishes in Game Changers have given them more than enough circuit points to qualify above the rest of the pack in NA. While they have won against their bitter rivals C9 before, they failed to take home the win when it counted most, and will be looking for revenge this event. In terms of playstyle, Shopify have strong team play and very good fundamentals. This culminates in a great mid to late round, leading on to my one to watch pick. For this reason, I have chosen Benita. The 29-year-old has brought a wealth of experience to Shopify since her inclusion in June 2022, and the results can be seen most notably with her helping to net a win against Cloud9 back in Series 2. She comes from a background of professional CSGO, spending 5 years playing at the top with CLG Red before making the switch to Valorant. Benita will be one to watch for her consistency at this event, knowing well the pressure that an offline environment can provide and acting as a mentor for her teammates coming up big in the clutch. This is another team expected to make a deep run, coming out of one of the most developed regions for Game Changers. While Shopify may not be favourites for the tournament, they have all the firepower to cause some serious upsets. The Game Changers Championship will be the perfect place for them to overcome these struggles for dominance in NA and cement their position at the top. From Latin America, Kru Fem. Another team who has dominated the competition on home soil make their way to Berlin for the championship. LATAM's challenger to the Game Changers throne have won every single GC series they have participated in, winning the regional final 3-0 versus Firepower. They are made up of a Chilean core of Kanir, Romy, Konsu, Best, and with Argentinian IGL Kalita. Kru have a lot of individual prowess, with players like Kanir bursting onto the scene in Latin America. However, their fundamentals are not always the strongest. They try and react quickly from picks being found in their default approach, sometimes leaving them susceptible to being exploited in the mid-round. Otherwise, they're a very strong team which is disciplined in this approach, playing close to the meta and using these rigid defaults to pin success. Coach FR1X can bring value in the timeouts with necessary adjustments against their opponents. My one to watch is the aforementioned Kinnear. From her chamber gameplay with 147 rounds on record, she finds the first kill 32 times to only 16 first deaths. With a first blood rate of 0.2, she makes an impact early on in a fifth of the round she's involved with. This is a staple in most of their comps barring Ascent, where she picks up Omen. One of the best players in her region, she can cause some serious damage at this event with or without the support of her teammates, a self-sufficient killing machine. My expectations for Kru is that they will be able to make a decent run in the tournament, beating out unprepared opponents. However, with their first game against favourites such as C9, they may struggle to create as many problems simply because of the protocols and preparation they face. Last up, Cloud9 White. They're the final team on my list, but for good reason. I've saved the best until last. Cloud9 White are the blueprint when it comes to professional female rosters in Valorant. They've helped to pioneer the Game Changers scene and found consistent results, winning all 6 major events in their region from 2021 until now. From front to back, they're a well-oiled machine with the perfect combination of youth and experience. Their defensive playstyle is strong in the retake. Their team coordination makes them very capable in these situations, and it will be interesting to see whether teams look to punish this specifically. Having been together as a core longer than any of the other teams, they're a very well-drilled unit with a strat book that runs deep. Their set plays will make their attacking sides potent, it's just a question of whether their opponents can deal with it or not. One to watch has to be Mel, a consistent top performer, one of the biggest names in the Game Changers scene, and for good reason. Her chamber is feared by many for finding such consistent value both on eco rounds and full buys alike. Mel leads the conversation in terms of players that are capable of performing on the top level within Game Changers and the wider VCT circuit as a whole. A player to be very excited about both in this tournament and the future. Expectations. Cloud9 White will be aiming for the trophy and settling for nothing less. Their experience at the top level will be a huge asset, although this event is a different beast altogether. Experiencing victory at every stage of the Game Changers competition, they now look to greener pastures. While their foray into the wider VCT circuit has been largely unsuccessful, victory here would reaffirm their status of the best in the scene. And that's it. I hope this video has helped underline some of the qualities that these different teams bring to the event. I wanted to make a video about the Game Changers Championship to highlight these teams and players so people have a better understanding of the scene coming into the tournament. Who's your pick for the international crown? Were there any players that I didn't mention that you'll be keeping an eye out for November 15th? Let me know in the comments section. It took a long time to prepare for this video, so let me know if you want to see more content like this in the future and leave a like on the video, of course. With that being said, those are the teams. The championship awaits. I'll see you all next time.